Good morning, Morning Musings by Melinda. Today's date, 3/4/2021, which in numerology equates to a 3. And 3 means expression and sensitivity. So what better day for a musing with a number 3 than to look at parents, moms and dads, and how moms and dads create us. Remember, in the Bible, it says one of the 10 commandments is to honor your mother and father. Sometimes moms and dads are people that you have to release because they're toxic and negative, but it doesn't mean that you don't honor the lessons that they have given to you, because remember, your soul chooses your mother and your father for a reason. So what makes a good mom? What makes a good dad? But before we do that, in Morning Musings, written on page 111, you can point fingers at others and say it's their fault, but the ultimate responsibility for your life always rests on your own shoulders. So if things are not going your way, look in the mirror. Those less than desirable situations are your mission in life to figure out how to turn a disaster into a triumph. So choosing your parents, your mother and your father, is part of your karmic profile and part of you understanding yourself. It's never about blame when you look at moms and dads. It's always about taking accountability for what you learned and how you learned it and why your soul chose those circumstances to begin with. You know, I'm a child of the 60s, raised in the 60s. And it was also a tumultuous time like it is right now. You know, we had I guess they were like air raids or whatever, where we went under our desk because we were afraid that we were going to get attacked by the Russians in the 60s. We had assassinations. We had civil rights movements. We had presidents that weren't so great and got into hot water, and so they resigned. We had all kinds of things as I was being raised too. But what counts for when there's tumultuous times like there is right now for kids? The stability of parents, how parents present themselves, and understanding how to be a good mom or a good dad. Being a child of the 60s, my dad just thought that he was supposed to be a provider. That's what men used to think. It's not like today where men are hands-on's father. He worked retail. That means on Monday nights and Thursday nights, he was at work because the store was open till 9 o'clock. On Tuesday nights, he bowled. On Friday nights, he played cards. And on Sunday mornings, after he was a good Catholic and went to church, he played golf. So he was an absentee father quite a bit. And so the was a normal way to be raised in those days, that the mother did a lot of work. My mother worked part-time in real estate with her own father, and that was how things rolled. Now, I have many regrets. I guess I really don't like to use the word regret because that's not fair to me. I have an awareness, I would rather say it that way, of some things that I did as a mother that were pretty bad mistakes. I think I did that because I was in survival mode. I worked 4 jobs for 2 years. I had to survive a lot. So therefore, there were things with my kids that I wish that I had been able to do differently. But they chose me for a reason, and those things that I had to do to put a roof over our head and for us to survive really taught them how to be hard workers. And because I loved them so much and they knew it, they've turned out to be great humans. I think we have a lot of expectations on what we should be or shouldn't be as a father or a mother. And especially if our fathers or mothers weren't what we wanted them to be. Some people repeat those patterns. Some people try to do exactly the opposite. But a lot of times people think they have to be perfect. And that is also an energy that doesn't serve anyone, not you, not the kids. So this is an article from Kate Kripke about 8 ways to be a good mother instead of a perfect one. She asked one of her clients to make a list of what makes a good mother, and this was the list her client came up with. And I would like to kind of pick this apart as we go along and then reframe it a little bit. So number 1, a mother loves her child unconditionally. Well, you know, there's conditions on everything on the earth plane, I must tell you. We do love our children as much as we can unconditionally, but there are conditions they can't run amok. We need to keep boundaries and allow for boundaries, or they become people that other people don't like. So there are always conditions in the way that we love someone, isn't there really? You can say, oh, I love my child unconditionally. But if they went around bullying other kids in school and they got in a lot of trouble, you'd put a condition on that so that they would turn out to be a good human, right? So the only real way we love unconditionally is probably with a pet. Number 2, never hurts her child. Well, you know what? The truth is that we are all human beings and we end up hurting each other sometimes. And we don't mean to ever hurt our children, and sometimes that happens inadvertently. Sometimes we're young and naive and repeat the patterns of our parents without even realizing that we're doing that. If you've been in that position and your children are grown and you look back at that and say, gee, I wish I had done things a little bit differently, then you have to forgive yourself, and you have to recognize that that child chose you for the person you were then. Always does what is best for the child. Well, you know what? You have to do what's best for you so that a child learns how to have positive self-esteem. Do you know children get their self-esteem from their same-sex parent? Okay? So when you are putting the child first, they get maybe a little bit of a mixed message that they are not finding balance, that you have taught them to sometimes self-soothe, sometimes take responsibility, and so on. We'd like to fix things and put children first all the time, but we can't do that. We have to teach them how to put themselves first. Should always feel that the most important thing in the world is her child. Yeah, well, I actually have children that are still the most important thing to me in the world, and my baby's going to turn 40 this year. Should always be willing to give up anything for her child. That's an interesting concept, to give something up for a child. It depends on what it is that you're giving up, right? Because sometimes you can be giving up something for your child and it can appear like you're a martyr victim, and that's what you teach your child to attract. Remember, whatever is placed in your subconscious mind throughout your childhood, you will attract as an adult. This is all about understanding balance, okay? Should be happy staying home with their kids all day. Well, you know what? I have many women that say to me, I'm a better mother working. And that's okay, really. Sometimes mothers are better working because they have some needs that get met outside of the house, right? Okay, shouldn't feel bored spending time with her child. Should be able to handle the kids all day without needing breaks. Yeah. Shouldn't feel unhappy at night when up with her child. Those are all expectations that are unrealistic expectations. Here's what a good mother should do her best to do. Teach her child how to live life to the fullest. How does a good mother teach a child to do that? Encouragement, consideration, but mostly by example. So if you live life to the fullest, your child will learn that automatically by watching you. Be there for the children when they need her. Helicopter mothers are maybe overindulgent with their children, and the children don't really need that. So that's a mixed message there as well. Teach her child the importance of self-worth. Critical. Someone who's taught to be worthy, to have self-worth, to have self-esteem, functions as an adult with a balance in this world and is able to have emotional maturity. Okay? Be a good example, of course. Make time to have fun with kids. Allow room for the children to make mistakes and learn from them. Got to let your kids make mistakes. I see too many parents that try to step in and fix things and excuse children, etc. And that's not healthy either. But what about a good father? Well, what was interesting was when I did my homework for you is they had these little things for the mothers, but for the fathers they gave like 25 little things that mean a lot to your child. So interesting. Because we are now in recognition how important the male role model is in a child's life. So here's what it says. Hang out in the garage. Well, it's good to teach a child how to build something, or if you like to have a hobby in the garage, but maybe you're a man that doesn't hang out in the garage. Just hang out, okay? Dance with your kids. Just having that fun, freedom kind of energy with your kids is great for a dad. Ask questions. men, I do readings with people all the time, and I will be looking at pictures of a man's child, and I'll say, "Who's Susie Q?" And I don't know. Because men don't always ask questions or listen to the children's friends and playmates. You know, when I'm looking at a picture of somebody, I pick up on those things with children particularly, because right now in today's world, with everything that's happening and the age of computers and video games and being able to connect with other people, you have to be aware of who it is your kid is hanging around with, because friends to a child makes a huge difference. And you got to know whether that kid is a vulnerable, lonely kid, and your kid is either being a savior to that kid or somehow mirroring that kid in a way. And you have to be able to see that so that you can help your child when needed. Teach rules, maybe leave messages, read out loud, surprise your kids. Maybe teach your kids how to have a good work ethic by bringing them to work. Say positive things. One of the things about the 5 languages of love, if you've ever read that book, is that men often have a language of love of acts of service, doing something for you. And that's a great language of love to teach your kids. But there also has to be positive words of affirmation and lots of hugs and affection and that kind of thing, too, from a father. Stop and play, tell jokes. Bill's always accused of telling bad dad jokes. You know, these are just, common sense things that tell dads that they have to be hands-on with kids these days, okay? Elliot, I know that Bill is a grandpa and also maybe had some things about his fathering that he wished that could have happened differently. So as grandparents, sometimes you can make up for some of those things. Elliot gave Bill a What I Love About Grandpa book for Christmas, and he wrote it, was fill in the blanks, so he filled in blanks, and what he wrote was kind in there like 5 times. I was impressed that he felt that way about Bill, because Bill's number one quality is that he is kind, which should be all of our number one qualities. Love is always the key. Love is always the answer. And if you love your kids as best you can, they'll feel it. So I don't know. The reason that I came up with this musing today was because lately I've been counseling people about their mothering and fathering issues. And whenever I have a bunch of people that are talking about the same thing, I always feel like, oh, I should muse about this because it's in the collective conscious. The reason for it right now is because it's such a crapshoot on what we're doing with kids with school. Kids need socialization. And so there is a lot of hoopla about the pandemic and kids needing socialization and some of those things. And by the way, I think that, if we don't teach our kids how to have equality, we're going to be in trouble. And sometimes we may do that with books that are written that may be inappropriate. Maybe we still need those books so that we can say to a kid, this was written in the 1950s or the early 60s or whatever, and this was a misrepresentation of this kind of person. So I don't know, when we start, having books get taken away, then maybe we're in a bad situation. I don't know. I'm not sure. I don't want you to be political with me. I'm just saying that it's parents' job to teach kids what's right and wrong. I was in an R-rated movie once, and a couple with their young children were behind me, young children, and the kids were talking loudly and they were asking questions. I had to get up and leave because I thought, oh, holy cow, how inappropriate for the parents to have brought their children, I don't know. So anyway, that's why I chose the musing today, and I hope that you have a great Wednesday. Remember, it vibrates out to a number 3. It's all about understanding yourself with sensitivity and understanding how that sensitivity and expression have manifested in your life and how it manifests through you as a parent. Have a great day.